Welcome to episode 71 of the Puck Pod by BD Sports. 71, in honor of one of the greatest playoff runs in recent memory, Gino Malkin, number 71.
Good call.
Yeah. Dave, it's been a while. It's been a couple weeks. What's been going on?
Uh, so a couple weeks ago it was my birthday. I think we were originally just not gonna do anything that week and then maybe do something later on in the week
Yeah,
after
because it
my
was also
birthday.
our finals and a half. Like
Our
it was a
finals.
crazy
It was a
weekend for
hectic
us. Yeah.
week, yeah.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately we had a death in the family. My grandfather passed away. Um, And just a quick aside on my grandfather, like a big reason why I'm a big Leaf fan is because of him and my grandmother. Like growing up, me and my family would always go over to watch the games, like playoff games especially. Normally every Saturday, growing up as a kid, we were there. My grandfather loved the Leafs, got very nervous by the Leafs, and he did not like us going ballistic in the playoffs because I think he was always like too nervous about the Leafs. Um, so always great memories, seemingly always with my grandfather and the Leafs. Always like they always like converged. Um, yeah, like I think my grandfather was probably inadvertently one of the biggest inspirations to be doing stuff like this and like for us, being in school. I don't think he had any intention of doing that, like, like when I was born, but I think inadvertently him and my grandmother as well, um, definitely helped spur this passion for sports. Um, yeah, I've been going over to see my grandmother, hanging out with her, watched a couple playoff games with her. But I've been sleeping over at her house. It's been tough. It's gonna be pretty tough for my whole family for the next little while for sure. It's going to be tough. But my grandfather, is in a better place now. Um, and hopefully the Leafs can give us some, joy. Hopefully soon. Maybe not this year. It's not not looking great right now. If that is what you want to use to jump into our conversation, Christian, it's not
I
looking
just want to
great.
say, yeah, I just want to say, hey, understandably so that it's going to be tough for you guys, but may he rest in peace. I got to see some of those photos you're talking about with you guys and in the Leafs gear. You can just really tell it's a family thing for you guys to watch the Leafs. So listen, may he rest in peace. And honestly, same for Bob Cole. We also lost Bob Cole
Yeah.
recently. So
Hmm.
two people very influential when it comes to the Leafs. So
Oh yeah.
with that aside, playoffs, playoffs,
Playoffs.
Dave. The
Where
Toronto
do we
Maple Leafs are
start?
down 3-1 in round one to the
Ugh.
Boston DejaBRUINS. I don't know. I guess you gotta start there.
The DejaBRUINS is a good one.
Yeah.
I like that. We're gonna
Uh
coin that one, I think.
yeah. There you
Especially
go.
now,
Pod
until
title.
they
Pod
win.
title.
I like that one. I'm literally
Listen,
gonna write it down.
I would love for that to not be validated. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we gotta kind of back up before we get to where we are today. Just because, yeah, it's been a couple weeks. So let's kind of talk about what our expectations were. Understanding this is in hindsight, what were your expectations for this series?
Okay, so I mean, first of all, going in, I think honestly the toughest week of my life also happened to be that final week of the season where everybody's kind of anticipating the 70 goals from Austin Matthews and William Nylander to break the what was it like 41 goals to break the most
40
goals
was
for a
his
European.
I think it's 42 would have been to set the record, 41 to tie, and then 40
Mhm.
he had 40 last year as well on the dot.
Yeah.
So it would just been a new career high. So plus
And
the
then
100
points
points.
as well, right? Yeah, getting
Yeah.
100 points. And
Couple of chases.
dude, and both of them, it was going right into I came on this podcast saying he's gonna hit Austin Matthews was gonna hit the 70 before those final two games of the season in Florida. Um,
And he was
and
so close too.
we wouldn't have to play it. Yeah, and he landed on 69. He couldn't get over the hump. that was those final two games. I didn't watch any of the games from what I could remember, but I just remember like just everybody just going in on a bit of a sour note. And that wasn't what we wanted to see. We had guys like Mitch Marner coming back. We knew that there was did we also know at that time that Matthews was like going through an illness, or did that come just after?
Honestly, I want to say that came after. Yeah, because it would have been food poisoning is not that long. It's a maybe
No.
I'm no doctor
Dude,
here, but
it feels like he's had food poisoning for like 2 weeks now, which is wild.
yeah, yeah. There's no, it
Listen,
absolutely
I've
is
never
wild.
been poisoned by food, and I love food,
Same here.
but I never want to, but
I was always under the interpretation it's like a 2 3 day thing. Like your body
I
just
was under the
empties
same
itself
impression.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Anyways, that aside, right?
Yeah. So
Stick or not.
it's a sour note to end the season, and then going in, finding out that it literally came down to the last couple of games where we ended up finding out that our first round opponent was going to be. I was very prepared for it to be the Florida Panthers. I think, as were you. We were kind of talking about it for a while. I don't think the thought of Boston came up until almost like the very end.
Yeah,
But getting Boston in my head, I'm like, I remember those series, in particular the 2018 and 19. Let's not talk about 13 anymore. That's 10 years in the past, 11 years in the past
very
now.
irrelevant.
We
Yeah.
really don't have to bring it up anymore. Nobody on the team, nobody on the team is on the team anymore. We don't got to talk about it. 2018 and 19 though, I thought, especially in 2019, like it was a big missed opportunity for those guys because they they had Boston cornered. They were up 3-2 in that series, if you remember. I know you remember, Christian, but some people might not. Um, but I really felt in 2019 like that was the best chance for them to make do on this whatever boogeyman the Bruins are. And they could never get it done. And I was hoping and praying in the near future after that we would get one more chance to take them on, because I felt at least they'd be better equipped as it got older. Skip ahead now. This is almost 5 years later, or 5 years later now. And I'm going in and I'm like, okay, now they're 5 years older. Austin Matthews, since that playoff series, went on to win the Rocket Richard. He won the Rocket Richard once or twice before this.
Hard.
Won a Hart Trophy, and then he's going to win another Rocket Richard. And he's still personally my pick for the Hart Trophy. He's not going to win it. He's my MVP though. Um, and but I think yeah, like everybody on the team has matured. Everybody's set new point records. They've especially this season, they've looked at times more like a cohesive unit than in years past. Like they look like they have a little bit more depth and stuff. And I thought maybe we were better suited this year than in years past to give it a real shot. Then the first game came, and wow, was I wrong. Everybody is saying this is probably one of the most um underachieving Boston Bruins team in years, just because now they don't have David Krejci, they don't have Patrice Bergeron. What do you think to that notion, Christian? Or do you have anything to say to add on just before we get into
Yeah.
that
I
talk?
well, no, I think that goes basically just on the topic of what the expectations were. My expectations were that this is the weakest Boston Bruins team we've played in this era. Um, and I wouldn't say they're underachieving. I would have said this was an overachieving team based on the roster on paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now
Well,
that
technically they
so
were, right?
yeah,
They are technically
no,
underachievers because they had a 25 or 26 point drop off from last
sure,
year. Now, the
sure,
caveat to that was they set the all-time NHL points record last year, and they still
yeah,
finished with like 105 or something like that. But
yeah,
in a technicality, they are underachievers because
sure,
you can't get better than the best, basically, right?
yeah. And I think with this Leaf team, I don't know if we would say I definitely wouldn't say this was like the best Leaf team of this era on paper, but I think a lot of people would have would have admitted that they liked the makeup of this team more than not all, but most other teams. They felt like there was a different element, mainly because of guys like Bertuzzi, Domi, bringing in like Edmondson and Benoit, that little bit of sandpaper. And I think that made people feel like we were well equipped to take
Mhm.
on the Boston Bruins. People felt Domi, Bertuzzi, these guys are playoff performers. That was the expectation. And I would say if you polled the fan base on the whole, they were feeling relatively confident. Which I don't know. I was gonna say that's not usually the case, but maybe sometimes we're a little delusional. So, right.
Yeah, but
Uh
I feel like normally we are confident to a degree. Like we understand the flaws with the team, so we
yeah.
can be confident. Like there always can be the possibility. But I think the confidence came in, is this the best time? Was this the best time and the best team to exercise? I always bring it up, like exercise these demons. I don't think
Yeah.
I think if the Boston Bruins were if this was Detroit that we were playing in the first round, we probably don't have this baggage, right? We won our playoff series last year. Whoopty freaking do. Well, at least we got that off. Like at least the team got that off their backs. But now the biggest boogeyman of them all has finally revealed themselves, and it's the Boston Bruins, right? Like I will agree
Yeah.
with you, Christian. Like I think we all kind of lulled ourselves into a sense of not security, but like something along those lines. Like we definitely lulled ourselves into thinking that this team is probably at another level than what they actually are.
I well, I think what we convinced ourselves of is completely just that we had the better forward core and we were just going to outscore them. That Boston's forward depth, if you look at it, it's very shallow. You went from the perfection line with Marchand, Bergeron, Pasta to Zaka and Coyle down the middle. DeBrusk has to be on one of those top two lines now. And people looked at all this and said, okay, that's we can deal with that. We've got secondary scoring now. We've got the core four. Um, and that's what I think that's where we lulled ourselves to sleep on, resting on those laurels. I will say, like after game one, and once again, this is hindsight. So this wasn't my thoughts going into the series, just after game one. I reflected on just kind of going up and down the categories of each team. Who has the goaltending advantage? Boston.
Boston.
Who has the coaching advantage? Boston. Who has the special teams advantage? Boston. Who has the regular season head-to-head record advantage? Boston. Who has the better defense? Boston. So you add it all up here, and
It's
we've
5
got
0.
the Leafs. We've got the Leafs have better forward depth and
5-1.
better star
Look,
power, right?
same
Like yeah,
same score as that first game.
yeah. So that's where I come in with the delusion, right? Where
Yeah.
I'm like, how did I took the Leafs in seven. That was my prediction. That's in my bracket. So I'm like, how was I so delusional to think all this when you just laid out plain and simple and those are the results, right? So no, once again, that's after game one, where I
Yeah.
think a lot of people were in that headspace after game one, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
listen, it was a shambolic performance from them in game one. I
It's
caught
crazy though, because it was shambolic if you watch the game, and then all the numbers people would have told you that we actually deserve to win it. I did
yeah,
not see that.
yeah. I
I did
saw
not see
I
that.
I know I saw that too. And it not did it like it didn't give me a sense of optimism, but it was a bit of a silver lining where you were like, okay, maybe if you play that game another time, maybe you lose, but it doesn't, maybe it's not as reflective. Like I don't know if the 5-1 score line was as reflective. Like then maybe they could have that could have been like a 3-1 game. Like I think 5-1 was a bit
A two-goal
egregious
deficit instead of a four-goal
instead
deficit.
of a
Sure,
4. Yeah,
sure.
whatever. Yeah, it's still a loss. Loss is a loss at the end
Yeah.
of the day. But yeah, there was definitely some silver linings to take from that game, even though yeah, no, it
No,
was bad
they
regard.
weren't
They
plentiful.
were
They were
bad.
not plentiful.
Yeah, they were bad.
Uh, and then game two comes around, right?
They
And
look like a different
the
team, dude.
they did, and the series gets flipped on its head because I think most fans would say that we held possession in that game. We just were the better team. I would say it was like a 65-45 or 65-35 split in terms
Mhm.
of who was driving play. We win that game off of the backs of a beautiful Austin Matthews goal. My God, Jesus Christ.
Off of a
Um,
beautiful Austin Matthews performance in general, like that whole game, that
yes,
was his
yeah.
game, right?
I
Him
know a
and
lot of
his
people.
for his line.
Yeah, I know. I think it was Elliot Friedman who said that was his best playoff game. I don't know if I'd go that far because like he's had some pretty damn good games. If you ask me, like the one that comes to mind is the 2-goal game last year against Tampa in the comeback. I think it was game 4, right?
Yeah,
So that there is probably my pick off the top of my head, but it's a good problem to have if we're having that discussion.
probably
Anyways,
like a top 3 to 5 performance from his
yeah,
career so
I think
far.
that's very fair. I think that's
Yeah.
very fair. So, and that was with Mark in that. Just something to know.
Yep.
And then game 3, me and Dave, we got to watch that one together. Um, I would have said that we looked like the better team again. Um, that was another game of like inches. That was a game of defensive, blown defensive coverages costing
Yeah.
you big time.
Hmm.
Ryan Reeves, um, and the special teams.
Yeah.
0 for 5 on the power play. That was probably the biggest theme that we took away from that game. Dave pointed out right away. Is like, listen, you go down, you go 0 for 5 on the power play. That's going to kill you.
Yep.
And then game 4, I think obviously there's probably the most to talk about from game 4. Unfortunately, 3-1 Boston Bruins, Swayman in net. That first and second period, I think most fans' takeaways is that that was some of the worst hockey they've watched the Blues play in the playoffs, and that's saying something. That's
Yeah.
that's saying something.
That's at least in the Matthews era, that might have genuinely
Yeah,
been. I could maybe think of one or two, like that first game against Columbus in 2020, and maybe like a couple of those like series ending games against Columbus, Montreal, those
in a
two. I think
non-elimination game, it ranks very, very
that
high,
genuinely
right?
might have been, that's okay, top
And,
3. That's got to be
yeah,
top 3
yeah.
in the worst
And then because you think
performances. Yeah.
about like some of their other blow-ups have been early in series, like the Boston, I think it was 2019, I think it was game 1, where they got absolutely blown out and Pasta had like 6 points or whatever.
Yeah. And game
That's
1
game
against
1.
Tampa
Game 1 against
last year,
Tampa last
which
year,
they
right?
won,
7-3,
right?
right? But game 4, this is fairly late in the series. And listen, the score wouldn't tell you that it was like a crazy game, but I've never seen them stifled and frustrated so much, especially in that second period. And we saw that come out with Willie and Mitch and Austin on the bench, with
Yeah.
Mitch throwing his gloves down and Willie basically. I feel like they've got it to a T of him saying, "Stop effing crying, bro. This isn't junior." Or whatever. At least the "stop effing crying, bro." I
Can
feel
we
very confident in that one.
are we confident enough to say that that was directed? Like could it have been directed at anybody else? Like I don't
I
think.
honestly, I don't know if yeah, it's I don't know if it matters if it was to Marner or not. I think just anybody on your team of the core four saying that to anybody else tells you a lot. Obviously, I think our hope is that it was to Mitch, right? That's the that's the hope. But like, I don't know if it matters. I feel like when your teammates for 8 years, I really hope that's not the first time that you've said something like that to each other, right?
Well,
So
it definitely feels like it's the first time in public. If they could have
that's
said
good.
that,
Yeah,
they
it's a
could have
great
said
point.
that behind closed doors, 100%.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
now that we kind of, I don't know, I feel like we kind of got a little peek behind the curtain. We've
Mhm.
we've always kind of heard rumblings, um, that, you know, well, I don't know if it's that we've heard rumblings that they're they kind of put on a facade that everything's always peachy clean and everything's squeaky good, even when they're in
We've talked about that always from that's
their
a top
down
down
moments.
thing. That's
Yeah,
a but like
yeah.
that's an organizational thing. That's not even just a roster thing. That's how the Leafs like to portray themselves. Squeaky clean.
Listen, I saw a lot of people kind of like I saw there was a alarming amount of people that were taking William Nylander saying like, well, what did you do? You sat out for the first 3 games of the series because of
Yeah.
migraines. You're
Listen,
never gonna please everybody.
I,
I
I
get it 100%.
I
But
love to say you can't have arguments. You can't have debates with people who aren't willing to have their mind changed. Those
yeah.
are people who aren't willing to have their mind changed. Like you can't pay any attention to those types of people, right? I don't know.
So for me to see, and I don't know if you feel the same way, to see that type of emotion from a guy like Willie as well. Like, okay, maybe it's something else if it's, I don't know, Max Domi saying something like that. But
McCabe, something like that. Yeah,
yeah, somebody else, literally anybody else on the team, but
Domi's a good shot.
other than like Mr. Stoic himself,
Willie,
Willie
JT, and
Nylander.
Austin, seeing any of those three would have been like, yeah, was like, whoa. And yeah,
But
Willie
I
was,
feel like we've seen emotion from Austin before. We've seen,
yeah,
when he gets a goal disallowed and then right after he scores on the Avs and he goes around and he points his hand, like that's
yeah,
emotion. I like seeing
yeah.
that type of stuff. But that's never something that we've seen from Willie like at all. Like kind of berating his teammate like that. And it's kind of in two parts because you see on one hand, you see Mitch just throwing a temper tantrum, looking like he's a 5-year-old on the bench, throwing down his gloves in frustration. And I get it. It is a frustrating series. He's coming back from a high ankle sprain. He does not look like himself, even though he scored that game.
It's a
The
very
whole
nice goal.
team, it was a very nice goal, but it seems like it was too little too late from him. And then you also seen William Nylander coming back from a migraine. He's probably heard it all too. A lot of people questioning, oh, he's got a headache. He can't play games 1 to 3. He's probably heard it all as well. They've
Have you heard it on Austin as well? Because
I've
I'm
heard
telling you,
I've
when
heard it
I've
on
talked to
Austin
people, they
too.
tell me that the food poisoning is an excuse that like crumbling under the pressure.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh my
no,
God.
100%.
Oh my
I've
God.
heard it from that too. Yeah, and I get it.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, the dude that scored 69 goals this year is gonna start crumbling. He's the guy that started that, like
After
you
eight
said
years, it's
before.
finally got to him. Like, come on.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
you said it
Like,
before. Like he's the guy that got that comeback, the 4-1 comeback started. He scored those 2 goals.
yeah.
Like if anything, like he's the guy. Okay, granted, in some of the higher pressure situations, maybe he's not always there. But is that just on him? I think it's the whole collective of
Yeah.
those
Let,
guys
let's
together.
let's narrow in on something. Like all of these injury concerns and are these excuses? Are these valid excuses or what? Because it's like you said, we have Willie coming back from migraines, Marner coming back from his high ankle sprain, Matthews going through through food poisoning so bad that the doctors pulled him from a playoff game.
Yeah.
Um, are those excuses? Are those valid excuses?
Dude, I don't even know. If they're excuses, that is that is inexcusable. That is shitty. I don't care. I don't care if it's Matthews. I don't care. I don't care who it is. If that is an excuse and it comes out at some point, don't play on this team. Don't play in the NHL, basically. Go overseas if you want to. I don't even think overseas they take stuff like that. That is all like that is genuinely awful. Can we take those excuses? Dude, if I'm being completely honest, no, right? It's been 8 years. It's been no, not
So that's
even.
the key, I think, right? I think they're valid excuses in this moment, but I think everyone's frustration and the reason we would call them inexcusable is because this is an 8 year thing. You're not
Yeah,
going to get the benefit of the doubt in year 8 after the first 7 years. Where
yeah.
what were your excuses in the past 7 years that all of a sudden make year 8 fine? I think
So yeah,
that's the
did
key there,
did
right?
everybody
In a
have
vacuum, these are
migraines?
excuses, but
Yeah, did
over eight
everybody have
years you can't.
migraines over 8 years? Like I
Exactly.
don't
So
think so. Like what was it before?
that's the
Right?
huge caveat there. If we're being honest, it's not a black and white thing. Like there's gray here for how valid these excuses are. But yeah, so I feel like when it comes to the core, everyone's just pointing at Mitch, right?
Yeah.
That's basically what it comes down to. Austin, I think most people understand he is. It's him and Willie that are their best playoff performers from the core four. That's just been pointed out through points, numbers, and I think most fans would agree with that. There's a chasm between those two, and then I would say Tavares and Marner, but we talked about this last night. I think we both agree that Tavares has he's come up in big moments. He scored in that game two victory against the Bruins as well. Um, and he does seem to find the goals when it matters. I would say on balance, I haven't liked this play at all in this series
No.
as a whole.
Yeah.
Um, and
His
then
that
with
whole line though, it's just been bad.
yes,
Him,
yes,
and I guess
guys,
that's in part
I've been
with
okay with
Marner
Nyes.
as well.
Yeah,
But see, the thing with Nyes is that he's A, 21 years old, B, the
yeah.
type of guy that you want on the team as a 21-year-old, and probably somebody who probably
He's the
shines even.
gravy. He shouldn't be driving the gravy train,
Yeah,
right?
exactly,
Yeah. Okay.
exactly.
Let's
He
keep
is.
on the court forward for a
Yeah,
second.
go.
We'll get to the depth scoring too. Okay, so that leaves us with Marner, who I actually thought in game one I didn't really have a problem with. He didn't do much. Um, but to me that was a positive because we've seen him do too much before to start series. So I actually thought in game one he looked confident and comfortable with himself. Didn't have problems in game one. Game two wasn't great. That's the blown coverage on the Pasternak goal off the faceoff at the end of the period. Not a good look. Game three wasn't much better. And then game four was a tale of two stories where he was, I would basically say, awful in the first two periods because he was trying too hard. He was making turnovers. And then in the third period, to me, it's like score effects. It's just the way the game goes. You're bound to get one back in a 3-0 game, and it was Mitch who did it. But really, the way he scored that goal is, I think, what a lot of his problem has been in this series. He finally created something for himself. I think he's been so stuck in his own brain of trying to be a playmaker and trying to
Yeah.
open opportunities for himself when he can do that for himself,
He
right?
makes
You can
those
play make for
spaces.
yourself.
Yeah. He the thing is that he'll open up space. He tries to open up space for other people, and in turn, it creates nothing. If he creates space for himself, it then opens up other people because then you
Yes,
got to
yeah,
take other people away from,
yeah. Being a
two
better
guys have to,
playmaker create makes you a better scorer. Being a good scorer makes you a better. They go hand in hand.
they
And
do
as
go
soon as
hand
you
in hand.
start, like, because I think with Austin in some of these games, once again with the caveat that he's thick as hell, but in some of these games, I think he's solely been looking to be the trigger man,
Yeah.
and that's why it hasn't worked, right? So you got to have a balance between those two things there. So I honestly think with Mitch, it's obviously like the frustration, it's the nerves, it's the him getting in his own head. But I think just from like a an on the ice standpoint, that's the biggest thing I've noticed with him is that he's forcing plays and passes to others when he should just be looking out for himself, honestly, because he can do that. And it
Yeah.
worked. It worked in game four.
Yeah, it
Uh
worked. It worked right at the end. Now,
yeah.
I thought their third period was, well, it was definitely substantially better than the first 40 minutes. It was,
Yeah.
at very least, it was passable. Even
How
though
much like do you put into that third though?
dude,
Because I'm not putting a lot
if
of
the
stock into
first
it.
here's the thing, if the first 40 was a negative percent, that last 20 was at least like a 10% effort there. You got some points on the board. Listen, they generated something, they scored a goal, they didn't get shut out, they could have. Now
They did
going
prove to
for
themselves too. I think that like part of what I saw in period one and two and period three, they were getting stopped at the blue line so many times in the first two periods. And then once again on the power play, the amount of times, and I'm going to be paying attention to this. I don't know if I'm just looking too hard for it now,
yeah,
but
no,
the
I don't think
amount of
you are.
times, listen,
Whatever
look,
you have to
I
say.
know, Dave, look for this too, because tell me if I'm crazy, or maybe they'll make the adjustment. Hopefully, we won't see it. But the amount of times in the past two games, especially, where I've seen them enter the zone on PP1 and go to JT on the
Yes.
half wall, on the left
Yes.
half wall, and the play die
Dies like
is
within a second.
insane
Yeah.
because he stops moving his feet. He's right inside the in his right beside the blue line. Okay, so he's not in the zone. He's just standing there. Stops moving his feet, and then
Yeah.
either rims it around the boards, hoping for someone to get that forecheck,
And it
or
goes right
looks
out.
cross ice and it gets intercepted.
Intercepted in the
It's like
middle.
that's I don't know why that's their only move.
Yep.
I don't know why on an entry you're going to, I would say, probably one of your worst entry guys. I
Yeah.
understand you've got the zone, you've got possession in the zone, but listen, dude, carry it yourself, keep forward momentum. Why do we always have to work horizontally? Like, I don't know. That's been really pissing me off. And then even 5-on-5, they were getting stopped at the blue line, period one and two. And then in period three, I thought they figured it out. Take it yourself. If you're a skilled player, try and make the skilled move at the blue line. I know people
Yeah.
hate that when it doesn't work. Um, but sometimes that's what you got to do because whatever they were
Dude,
doing was not working.
that is
They
how
get
this team
blown.
is built. That is
Yeah,
how they are built.
they tried the jump and chase sometimes, but when it's Nick Robertson trying to dump and chase on Brandon Carlo, guess who's going to win that battle, right?
Yeah.
Like it's stuff like that. So I think
How
it's really
many
situational. Like
how many guys on that top power play unit are winning a dump and chase battle in the corner? One?
yeah, yeah. Like I trust Austin 100%. I trust Willie, JT sometimes, Mitch
See, even
sometimes. Mitch is
Nylander
good
too.
second man in.
Even with Willie, like right now, do you trust him like to
Yeah,
win a
well, it's
dump
his
and
first
chase
game
battle
back.
in the
Yeah,
corner?
I get what you're
Like
saying. I get what you're saying. Okay. I wanted to touch on a couple
Sammy.
other things. Special teams we've talked about a bit. I do want to talk a little bit more about it. But we also have to touch on coaching, defense, and goaltending. I don't think the conversations are as long on some of those. On the power play, what are your thoughts? What is your solutions? What
It's
do you have any ideas what's going wrong? I know
I
it's an 8-year problem.
I
It's
don't know.
nothing new, but yeah.
I don't know. I guess like for me, maybe you throw Domi on there. The thing for me is you have Bert on that first power play line and you have JT. For
Redundant.
yeah, to an extent, they are two of the same type of player. Not saying talent wise, but in this they are in the same mold
They're
of each
playing
other.
they're playing the same role on the power play. They're
Yes,
both
yeah.
playing net front below the red line. Like they're doing the same thing. Yeah.
The for as much as a lot of people don't want to admit it, they need more creativity on that power play, right? They need something else going there. If you throw somebody like Max Domi on that first power play line with him, Mitch, Austin, Willie, does that not scare the shit out of you?
Yeah. No, I could see that working. I think that's worth a try. I think they're almost too stuck in trying whatever system they're trying to play in. I think they just need to play off of their talent, just play naturally. I think they're trying too hard to force plays, force the system. And I've always said this. It's not even about Morgan being bad or whatever, but he's not a threat on the power play. He's not.
No,
And so
he's not.
if you're the opposing team, you just have to worry about him as a passer.
Yeah.
You know he's not going to threaten the net. If he is, it's
Listen,
going to be
you
with the
cut
seeing
that
eye
lane.
shot. So at least if you've got the net front, it's not getting through. Like,
If you cut that passing lane,
yeah.
that quarterback passing lane at the point, dude, it's you stymie the whole power play.
But you can at least, even if you don't intercept the pass, you can telegraph where it's going next. Because
Yeah, yeah.
if I'm the PK forward, I'm covering Riley at the point. I take away one of his passing lanes. You
He's only
know
got
there's
one
only one
left.
other passing lane. You know where it's going, right? So you don't even
100%.
have to make an interception. You don't have to block a shot. You just have to play your part, and then it's up to the next guy to do his. Like I don't know. I
So
I'll
here's
say
the
it till
thing,
I'm blue
like
in the face. I
you
just don't think
take
they have they don't have the
the
system or the
manpower.
personnel to make it work.
Yeah.
They don't. They
If
don't.
right now you take off Riley, let's say you take Riley off, who are you putting there?
The
You put
solution's
Mitch
not on
there?
this
Like
team.
I
That's
have
the
no idea,
thing.
right?
No, the solution's not on this team. I do agree with
It
you. I would
quite
like to
literally
see maybe
isn't.
Domi in
You
for
know, actually,
Bertuzzi.
technically, it is on this team. It was probably John Klingberg. If we're being completely honest, I thought John Klingberg
I,
in his first couple of games, at the
yeah,
very least, added something different to that back end.
on the power play, sure, but I think
Yeah, okay. Everywhere else,
we very yeah. That's where we very
play
quickly
11
learned
and
it's
7 and just play them
yeah
power play. Just give them power
yeah
play time. Like I don't care. Like whatever.
yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, it would have been somebody in that type of ilk. The next thing
Anything
you want to
else on
go
the power
over,
play?
no,
Coaching. Let's talk coaching.
bad.
But
My only thought on power play, bad. Next,
not
coaching,
good.
bad.
Yeah. So he's made a couple lineup decisions, a couple lineup changes.
Bad.
Didn't take Robertson out for Willie. He took out Dewar.
Yep.
Um, I was very stunned by that because the ice time splits would tell you that it was Robertson coming out, like he was playing 7 minutes a night. And I actually
Yep.
do think some of those 7 minutes were kind of effective. Like he's had some
He had
opportunities,
looks.
but
He's had looks.
once again, he's the exact type of guy you want to play if you're facing the Boston Bruins. I'm sorry, he
No.
doesn't win puck. He cannot win a puck battle in the offensive zone. He
You know
cannot.
who you want to be playing against the Boston Bruins? Connor Dewar.
Yeah, I think just Dewar for whatever reason he's elevated his game in the playoffs. I think he's kind of given us what we lost in Sam Lafferty. I think he's that type of player.
Yeah.
He's just fine fourth line player.
I think
Gives you
he's
great
even
effort.
I think he's
defensively
even
responsible.
more defensively dependable than Sam Lafferty
Yeah,
ever was.
yeah, yeah. No, I think that's fine. Penalty kills, right? So the only thing I could have seen in that decision was that Keefe wanted that power play upside more than whatever Dewar gives you on the PK. But even that is like that's really stretching the logic. Like I didn't like that move. And then Brody in for Liljegren. I didn't have any problems with that. I know Brody got absolutely roasted on one of the goals in game four.
Yeah.
Can't remember which goal he
Was
got.
it the
It was
Ryan
bad.
Reeves one? Well, the Ryan Reeves
Um,
gave it away. I think he was just waving his
I
stick at
no,
JVR basically.
yeah, it might have been a different one though. I think there was another one where he got torched. Anyways, I honestly don't think you could have went right or wrong with either of them. Like this just goes to we don't have the personnel. Like our blue line's just not that good. It's just
Yeah.
not. I can't
Yeah.
believe how far Brody's fallen because I've been a big Brody defender. I thought it was crazy when people were saying he might get bought out in the
I
summer when
was
Sarah
just about
Valley
to say,
started that.
I was just about
I
to say
I was
that.
right. I was right there saying you guys are like a load of crap.
Crazy.
Like I'm
Yeah.
yeah. And
That's
listen, he played 20 plus minutes a night this
dude,
entire year. Like
going
he
into this
did.
season, I think you take a poll, everybody
Yeah.
would say that TJ Brody was their best pound for pound defender. Like
Yeah.
defenseman, he was easily that, right? And he very
Yeah.
quickly was not that.
No, no. He's the amount of times I've looked at a replay of a goal scored against us this year, and it's Brody with he always has the same move, right? It's his head up um in front of the net. It's ridiculous. I've seen it way too many times for sure. Um and the thing with him is once again, he has no offensive ability whatsoever. His shot is an absolute muffin. So if he's not giving you the stalwart defensive effort, you're not getting much from him, right? Um yeah, so those are the coaching decisions. Is there any world where we lose the series and Keith is still here? I don't.
No, no.
Right? Yeah,
I think even if they won this series,
yeah.
I'm done
It would,
with
yeah,
Sheldon.
depending on how the
I'm
fashion
sorry.
losing. Like, I think if we even like clawed back to game seven and lost, like he's gone.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
A loss in the first round, regardless, should be the nail in the coffin for him and the whole staff. Um,
yeah.
Another loss in game seven, where does that leave somebody like Brendan Shanahan? Quickly.
Let's pick up that conversation after our break. We'll talk some more coaching. We'll talk some GM and some president talk too. Okay, we're back. We were just getting into some Sheldon Keefe talk, and
Mm,
then alluding to some management and president stuff. Let's stay on Keefe for a little bit.
okay.
So how have you felt about some of his quotes in the post games and just kind of how he's portrayed himself in the media on the bench? Just yeah,
I mean, dude, we saw the character kind of come out of by almost by force by William Nylander, like we were talking before. We saw the emotion to an extent, like the temper tantrum of Mitch Marner. Sheldon, just be honest with us here. We know we can clearly see you're getting out coached. Again, not the first time. Has he ever won a coaching battle, even though he won a
maybe
series?
yeah, you'd argue like maybe that one, but even that was like we got through some of those games on the skin of our teeth. We were winning some of the games that we should have lost, right? So
I have a serious question now. How does this series so far change your perspective of last year against Tampa? Does it change your
I
perspective on Sheldon Keefe or anybody on the team?
no, well, no, because I think last year just went to show there is a blueprint to adding players around the current core and it actually like kind of working. I know this seems crazy to think because we still got like lost in 5 games in Florida because our core didn't score. But I look around the league and I look at guys like Ryan O'Reilly being great for Nashville and Luke Shen on Nashville as well. Like some of the guys that we had. And I honestly look back on it and just say, okay, they can do that again. I know that sounds so goddamn delusional. That's my perspective on it now. Is I think we maybe underestimated how not how good of a team that was, but we're talking about the sandpaper of this year. I honestly still might say last year's team had more of that like sandpaper and playoff grizzled vet kind of feel.
See, for me, if I'm being honest, I looking back, I think the Leafs just took advantage of a clipped Tampa Bay Lightning team, a bit of a cooked Tampa Bay Lightning team. and they kind of rode
Clipped him
that.
away. Cooked him away.
Dude, they did. I mean, granted, they look kind of slow right now, but that was a
Yeah.
much slower Tampa Bay Lightning team.
I think last year's Tampa team was better than this year's team for sure.
I would
Yeah.
agree, but also having to go up against a goaltender who is less than probably 30% healthy at that time,
Not
where you're
having Eric Chernak.
yeah, not having Eric Chernak for five of the 6 games of the series.
Braden Point's
Braden
injury was in
Point
the
the year
last series.
before, yeah.
Yeah.
But
I Dave, but to me, now we're sounding like this year's excuses, the injury excuses, like they're not in some ways they're not excuses
no,
because you gotta right.
I'm saying it looks like the Leafs just took advantage of a more of a wounded team. Like this Boston team is, for all intents and purposes, they look like a proper playoff team. If Tampa had like if they played back-to-back series against Tampa with a healthy Vasi and like the same type of team that they played the year before, they probably would have lost last year as well. I don't think they win that series if they have a healthy Vasi. If more things went right for Tampa Bay, basically, the Leafs are probably not getting out of that series. If you catch my drift, like
Yeah, I know. I get what you're saying.
I think
I'm not there.
I think last year's win was
Yeah,
more fool's gold than a lot of people want to admit.
I think no, because I think we could like you telling me you have Ryan O'Reilly on this team instead of I don't know pick your guy like
Yeah,
instead of Tyler Bertuzzi, to be
yeah, for
honest.
sure,
Like
dude. If we had a three
I
C, it'd be
think
a
there's
lot different for a
yeah, I
hundred
think there's a
percent.
lot of pieces from that team that we could use right now, like Luke Schenn and Ryan O'Reilly specifically. I'm just like we're gonna be looking for those types of guys this summer. So
Well,
I know
it certainly won't be Ryan O'Reilly. I'll tell you that. He already
yeah,
said
well
no
no,
once.
he's
Well, he's under
oh he's locked
contract
up.
there
He's locked
now,
up.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
We're gonna be looking for guys to play those types of roles this
yeah,
summer.
100%.
Yeah, no, I do look back on it. I say I think that team there was actually a lot that we did right with that team. I don't know, and I actually think maybe Keefe wasn't responsible for a lot of it. Like I think maybe he's part of the reason why we look at some of those games and say, man, we should have lost some of them, but we pulled out a win. Maybe it's some of the things he did. I don't know, but let's go back to this year. So yeah, I think yeah, if they lose the series, Keefe is gone. I would probably clear the whole bench because I special teams needs an entire rework. Like everything needs an entire rework as far as like strategies go, whatever. And then yeah, I think just like some of the things you've been saying in the media, like I don't sense frustration and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I
just
think
get out of my face with that, dude. Like, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
that's so I've I've really just stopped paying attention to quotes when it comes to like Leaf playoff games, like post game pressers and everything. They are so
It means
empty.
literally zero. It means
Yeah. And you want to talk about the frustration and someone crumbling under the frustration outside of Mitch Marner. I think it's Sheldon Keefe. I think this is a guy who's stressed the hell out of himself trying to figure out this conundrum that is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Um, yeah, to no avail. I don't think I could ever question his care
Passion.
level to
Yeah,
make this work. Yeah, I
yeah,
cannot question that. But I can totally question the fit, and I can totally question the future of him being the coach of this team. I know people are
yeah.
going to say like he's got an extension that hasn't even kicked in yet.
Doesn't matter.
I
Wipe
think
your
there's
ass
actually
with
been,
that.
yeah, and I think there's two coaches in the past year who have been fired before their extension kicked in. I think Don Granato had an extension. He's gone. There's someone else too. So that doesn't fly. So yeah, I think most fans are in agreement on that. We want to talk about Brad and Shanny. Let's talk about Shanny. Um, that's probably like a Keith Pelly decision, right? That's a new head of MLSE, and I don't know where he stands on Shanny. All signs point to him being more of a, I don't know if hands-on is the right word, but someone that maybe it is hands-on. Maybe that is the word. He's going to look at this, I think, a lot more carefully than it was before. A lot of people speak highly of him. I couldn't tell you right now, one way or another, how we would feel about Shane. I don't know.
I do we just cut that middleman? Do they just cut that middleman right out and it's
I
Pelly
honestly
to
just thought about that
Brad?
right now. I'm like, yeah, maybe you don't have to replace Shanny. Maybe it's just get rid of that role.
Because I feel like the Leafs were one of those the first Because who's the president before Shanny? Did we have a president before Shanny? I thought it was just GM
No,
to Larry, basically, right?
yeah, well, it was like Tim Lightwicky, but he wasn't like he was
Tim
CEO, like
Lywick.
he wasn't.
Yeah.
There was no. Brendan Shanahan is the president of hockey
Yeah,
operations.
we had no
We
president, but
haven't
we had a
had many.
president, but not
Yeah,
of hockey ops. Yeah. Okay,
yeah,
fair.
and because I think that kind of that role was kind of new when Shanny took it. Like there was a couple guys who had started having those roles, and then like it spread
It
around the
started.
league. Like there's a bunch now, but when Shanny was hired, there wasn't many of those
So
roles. He was one of the first.
do we kind of do we need it anymore, basically? Like,
Yeah,
is it
I'd be
run its
fine with
course?
I'd be fine with cutting it out. I would be fine with that. I don't think that would bother me at all. Um, and yeah, but I like I said, I could not tell you one way or another how upper management feels about Shanny. I just don't think we ever read about that yet. Right?
I
It's tough to
don't
make
think we
predictions, I
do.
think.
I don't think we do, but at some point,
You're
but
saying you would call for
I
him
was
to be
just
gone
about
if we
to.
lose the series.
I mean, I personally, yeah, but I
Yeah.
know the whole upper management has nothing in the past 10 years has told me that that is what will happen until the bottom line gets threatened with,
See,
mass,
here's the thing though, is apparently the ownership is unhappy with this situation. Like in terms of the Leafs losing. Like they were
dude.
basically promised
Yeah,
playoff revenue. They were like, here is what the playoff revenue is going to look like in rounds 3 and 4. You ready for that money? And they haven't seen any of that revenue. And so that does fall on like guys like Shanny. So if there is frustration in upper management, like he is the guy who would go,
dude,
right?
it's been
I
almost
think Keith
10
Pelly throws a
years.
wrench into it though. Yeah,
It's been
yeah,
almost 10 years.
yeah,
How upset about lighting your money on fire can you be? Like,
yeah,
I don't know, basically. I
yeah.
think the problem with Shanny is that nobody fully understands what he's done.
He's a man in the shadows.
We've never really gotten a peek behind his curtain. That would be that's something I'd
The
be
most we
very
got was
interested in.
last summer because of like
Yeah,
Kyle getting fired, right?
that
And then
brought right to the forefront. Any
and then
problems
I
that they
think
were
the other
having.
time, yeah, we heard about him. I
Yeah.
think the other time was when this was earlier. I think this one would have been against the first uh Bruins. I want to say this was like 2019. Where he basically came out and said, like, when I was on the Red Wings, we took a little less, or he had some quote like that. Remember where he was like, when I was on the Red Wings, we all sacrificed a little for the
Yeah.
better of the team. It was
Yeah.
that quote, and it came out right
I
before some of the
remember that.
contract
Yeah,
negotiations.
I
Yeah, that was the
remember that.
last that was the last time we got a real good like look into Shanny. Um,
So
but
Shanny,
yeah,
if
like
you really wanted to be the GM, why didn't you say so yourself
so
then?
that's a curious thing too. Is I wonder, where you'd go. That's a different conversation. Let's talk about Brad. I think Brad's safe. Like, I don't think Brad's going anywhere. I don't think you hire a
The
GM to
thing
fire him
is,
after 1 year.
I was very skeptical when they hired him.
Me too.
I was very
Me too.
skeptical on the moves that he made.
Me too.
And I think he's done some redeeming of himself. I think to an extent he has done good. He's also done not great. I love
The
Ryan
Klingberg thing
Reeves.
was such a dodgeball. Like that could have been disaster. Uh,
Yeah.
Even with Reeves though, like I know he's getting
He's
huge turnovers and whatever. I think we're seeing a world where he can be
he
your
can
13th and 12th
coexist.
forward. Yeah,
He can
yeah.
coexist in the
He should
lineup.
not sink your ship.
100%.
He's
Yes.
not. You're not looking at it as like that move right there by Brad Treliving. That's the reason. Yeah. So yeah, we can learn to
That
live.
move regardless was never going to be a win unless miraculously
Yeah.
Ryan Reeves gained two bionic legs and he was able to skate what he did at age 25 again, but he's not, and that's never going to happen. So it
Is
was
there some
always
type
like
of stem cell treatment where we can like take like Nathan McKinnon's cells,
I
put
I
them in
bet
Ryan
you
Reeves, and he just becomes a rhinoceros on ice? Can we do that?
if any organization in this league has
Yeah.
something like that, it's MLSE.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. The R
that
and D.
was going to always be working from behind the Ryan Reeves signing. Like, but the thing is, there's always loopholes with that move. There was a
The
loophole
loophole
with
is you could always just send him down to the minors, and he only costs
exactly.
100K on your cap. That's a loophole. So
Yes, exactly.
you have to have the
Um,
balls to do it because you're the one who signed him to that. But I'm like we can live and learn with that one. It's fine. That one's fine. Um,
I think we
Bird
said it.
and Domi.
I've liked the two of them, and I think we said it as soon as he was hired. We were like, I distinctly remember us saying this first season is for him at least the trial run season.
Which is so cliche because that's such a that happens like every time a GM takes over. Is like they don't do a lot in the first year to kind of get a lay of the land. I think here was pretty valid.
Yeah, I mean, he came in a month later than other GMs. Like if the Leafs had fired him
Under
the
like a
day of,
clause where he couldn't like be at the like he couldn't do draft stuff. Like it was a very
yeah,
weird circumstance.
yeah.
Yeah,
If the Leafs had hired, um,
I
had
want to say
hired
early
him,
June.
yeah, no, but I'm saying if they had hired him the day after they were eliminated from the playoffs, that's still low key working from a,
Yeah,
a thing of disadvantage, right? Like he's got a shorter offseason than half of the league, basically, still. Um, yeah, it's just like I don't know. I'm giving Brad the pass for
yeah,
right
me too.
now, but
Um,
I'm also not gonna sit here and say that he is the be all end all GM for the future. He still needs to prove to me that he can build a winning team. I think he's made steps in the right direction, at least like to an extent. Like even though that they're having the technically their worst run in the playoffs, like it looks like they might not even make it
TBD,
to a
TBD.
games. Yeah, but dude, if they don't make it to a game seven, this
Yeah,
is technically their worst
no, it is.
playoff run, right?
Um, does your opinion on Brad, whatever Brad's done, change if like Bird and Domi both walk for free? Is that? I think Bert, we kind of saw the mercenary idea that was being done there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I ever had a idea that he would be re-signed
If you
realistically.
if you can the only one that I would be very unhappy with is if Domi left. I think Domi is in like we're in a position right now where Domi should probably be staying, and the only way for that not to happen is if we do something to screw that up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think if you're gonna give him somewhere between 3 and 4 million for 4 to I'd say 3 to 5 years actually. So 3 to 4 million for 3 to 5 years. I'm cool with that. Very cool with
Yeah,
that. Totally fine.
100%.
And then Benoit and McMahon are just plus contracts. Those have been great.
Yeah.
Edmondson, I've liked what he's brought.
I'd like for
I would
them
be
to
interested in
keep him.
resigning.
Yeah.
Yep, I would be interested in resigning somewhere at 2 million, give or take
The
500K. That like they
caveat
can't go more than that.
the caveat is in the off season, you need to. I would argue. I think you cut loose on Timothy Liljegren, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that's a different discussion. We could talk a lot about that.
You're saying
Um,
you're saying the whole off season additions well,
yeah,
that
yeah.
is
Well,
a
I'm just thinking
whole.
everything that's. I'm just thinking. No, I'm just thinking about everything that's Brad done because yeah, Lundgren is obviously inherited, but that could be like that's a future thing. And Labushkin, that's the other acquisition. I think it's actually
Yeah,
been.
he's been fine.
It's been okay.
I wouldn't want to see him
Me too.
back though. I think
Me too. I agree.
the problem on the back end at least is there's too many. Like you, it's crazy to think like we just have too much meat back there now. You know what I mean? Like I I
Yeah, but
think
it's meat that's about to like expire, right? Like we need more
yes.
prime rib, we need some grade, we
Yeah,
need some wagyu in there,
dude, and
right?
it's not even just
We got
that,
some
but
ground beef right now.
we do desperately need somebody who can be at least like just give me somebody mobile, somebody who can carry the puck
Yeah,
out of the
that
zone.
that's my biggest
Oh,
takeaway from this series
oh
is
my
we're good.
God.
Like if there's one thing I can say about Keefe is that I think he's gotten more out of this decor than a lot of other coaches could. Right? Like I don't think it's that great of a blue line this year. And honestly, the results are fine considering what they are. Um, we need guys who can skate. We need bigger guys, and we need guys who can shoot the goddamn puck. Those are my three
Mhm.
wishes on the blue line. I will say until I'm blue in the face. Throw whatever money you want at Brandon Montour. Throw whatever money you want at this. So this is an aside, very quick aside. There's a lot of good blue liners this year. So many of them are American that I'm really worried we're going to strike out on them. Like Brady Shea, Matt Roy, Brett Pesci. Um, there's probably more that I'm missing just off the top of my head. A lot of American defensemen. I'm worried that they're not going to be so interested. I really
Yeah.
hope not. Anyways,
I
Yeah,
could see that happening too.
yeah, that's why I point him onto right away. Um, so yeah, that's everything on that front. Goaltending is maybe the only other thing I wanted to touch on. Sammy's letting some stinkers, but I also don't think Sammy's been the reason we're losing this series. I'm not putting it wholly on him.
No,
He's given
I'm
up
not either.
stinkers in games where the team has laid stinkers, so
Yeah,
it wasn't the difference. And then Wall looked good in his
fine.
one period of
20
play.
minutes.
I think goaltending for us at least hasn't been sink or swim in the series. We can talk about Boston, it being an absolute strength and a half.
Well,
Um,
I think it hasn't been sink or swim, but it also, you
it
know,
could it could have been something that was a strength, right?
yeah. I think with the way that Sammy had played after being recalled um from the AHL,
Marlies,
like,
yeah,
dude, he looked like a different man. The last few weeks of the season, though, I would say probably stretching to about 3 weeks, he definitely did start to lose his edge. He started to look very squirrely, and I think he's looked very squirrely. Like, I know that's his MO, but he's looked more squirrely than usual, and he has looked like that through the first round of these playoffs. Um, I get that that plays into his game, but it also is a hindrance to him as well. I think a calmer Sammy isn't as, you know, his moves aren't as large as they probably should be. Dude, he was caught. I'm sorry, he was caught out. I know, granted, the
is that
turnover
power
from
play
Ryan
goal?
Reeves.
Yeah. Oh,
No,
that
I'm
one.
saying the
Yeah,
JVR goal.
JVR.
Dude, I get it.
No,
I get the
he was above his
turnover,
crease,
dude.
I think.
But man, oh man, was he definitely out of position on that play as well. And it's unfortunate because I like Sammy. I really do. I really wanted him to work, but I don't see a world right now where he comes back, basically.
I tend to agree, but I've kind of always thought that, like,
Yeah. I think
so
now
I'm a little biased in that.
I think the only world that there could have been for him coming back is if he was literally playing at a 935, basically. And
Yeah,
that's too much to ask for, unfortunately, right? If
yeah,
we got all world Sammy, fucking yeah, bring him back, of course. Why who would say no to that?
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think he's gonna be someone who goes to like a very middling team. Um, and he's like a one
the
B. Like he,
Utah Coyotes.
yeah, I don't know what's him, but I don't know. I don't know if Sammy. Here's the thing: is I don't know if Sammy can steal a game for us. Right, that's the biggest thing. We've seen Swayman. You could have maybe argued that was a 5-1 game, but the numbers would have told you he stole game one. We just don't have that type of quality in our goalies. Um, okay, let's look forward a little bit. Let's look at the rest of the series. I know we kind of did a post-mortem before they even died here, but like let's talk about the rest of the series. How can the Leafs maybe come back in this series? They've done it twice in the past 10 years against this very team. I know we said
They have
2013 is
and
goddamn relevant. I know it is, but
here's another thing
they've
too.
done it twice.
Boston has also like the Leafs could have done a 3-1 multiple times, but they didn't. But then you know who did do a 3-1 was the Florida Panthers last year. So the
Yep.
Boston Bruins
Yeah.
are relatively susceptible. In the past 10 years, they've been pretty susceptible to losing 3-1 stranglehold leads. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Like no, I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, the Leafs are definitely gonna be coming back right now because I even with man, even with like looking back on
You
that
just cannot
2013
see.
team, how the
Yeah,
hell did they even
no,
how did they even manage a game seven?
it's
Dude.
crazy they even won. They took a game off of them in the first 4 games, right? Like that wasn't a sweep, right?
Yeah, yeah. 100%.
It's crazy. Um, yeah, I don't see a world where the power play fixes itself in this series. That's my
And
biggest worry.
dude, and I think that's does that lend itself maybe more in the Leafs' favor? Like I've always heard, the referees put away the whistles in the playoffs, and it's 4 games in, and both teams have probably a combined 17 power play opportunities, or maybe more,
Probably
probably
more.
close to
I
20.
think more. I think the Leafs themselves might have 17. Yeah,
Oh, actually, you might be right. I think they're like what are they? 1 for 16 right now? One for
I think
15?
it's yeah. I know for sure they were at least 1 for 14, and I think that number is a little bit higher.
A bit higher, yeah.
Um,
Probably
yeah, and like
30
I don't
off.
even know if yeah, like the our PK, like I'm not even I'm not even putting too much thought into it to be honest, because I think the goal that's where Sammy's look kind of exposed. Is There's been
Yeah.
a two of the one tees. I think it was a Brad Marchand one tee in game four, and it was a pasta one where he was just like
Even
not even in the right region of the net. Um,
I think that Brad Marchand goal as well was just a whole PK lapse because I'm pretty sure that was the one where I think Mitch he left the point basically and it just created a lane down like the center and it just felt like everybody was kind of like chasing after that and it just landed on Brad's like they made I forget who it was maybe I think it was Zaka that put that puck through the middle and it just like was a yawning cage for
yeah,
Marchand to rip it home.
I think
Um
it's a personnel thing there too. I just don't think we have the PK personnel.
yeah, I don't
Um,
think so either. I really don't.
it's
Like here's the
yeah,
thing, like is there a world where the Leafs could come back and win? There's always a world where they
it's a
can
lot
do
of
that.
5-on-5 play, like you said, and I
Which I
think
think they've been pretty good on. I think 5 on
yeah,
5 they've probably
on balance, I'd give them like a slight edge in the series so
yeah,
far. On balance, yeah,
which
because
is
I
fair
like
because
game four they were not good at all.
yeah,
But through the first three games, yeah,
they were probably better. And here's the
yeah,
thing, they needed their 5 on 5 game to be at least better than the Bruins because
yeah.
if they were winning if they had a 51 to 49 advantage on 5 on 5 then their power play was a 10 to 90 in favor of Boston, right? And their PK was a 20 to 80 in favor of Boston. So you're not
Yeah,
winning the special teams. It's not even like you're losing the special teams. They are getting drastically beaten the shit out of on both
it's
ends,
the series. It's the difference in the series, right? Like
right?
that's what it is.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah,
hyperbole there either. Like that is
yeah,
quite literally what it is.
yeah. Um, I think one thing I've noticed in this series compared to the past two against Tampa is a lack of a game plan of how to score on Swayman. Do you not remember last, like both times against Vasi, there was a clear game plan to put traffic in front, look for deflections, have your defensemen sift pucks through for the tips. That's how Morgan had great series both years, right?
Hmm.
I haven't seen that.
At all.
I think twice in the entire series I've seen Morgan put on that sifting shot, the seeing eye
And
shot.
those have probably been the only better
One of
looks
them I
that
saw
they've
on the
had.
power play, and I was like, no, we need that 5-on-5. And then yeah, like, but we need it more in general. I think that's because I honestly think that's a foolproof game plan against any goalie as long as you stick to it, right?
Mhm.
So
If you do
that's
that on
something
the
I want to see.
if you do that on the power play and you have that's a time where you can have JT and Bert there because those are two guys that you trust net front, right? Then
Let's see them
you
do it
have
because they haven't been doing it.
yeah, then you have Mitch and Austin on the flanks
Yeah,
basically, right? That is the appropriate time to use that combination, but it doesn't feel like they're using that. That's why I suggested putting Max Domi because if you're not gonna stick to that game plan, you got to be more creative because that let's just say that sifting the puck through isn't a creative plan for the power play. They're not creating that seems more like a one and done type of play basically, right? If you could get it on and you could sustain a little bit more pressure, sure, you could think, but for the most part, let's say 8 out of 10 times that goes on, they'll have a chance, and then it kind of comes out. They're not sustaining pressure that way, and I don't think this Leafs team is like that. Their power play is really built to sustain pressure like that.
no. Sustaining pressure, even 5-on-5, our cycle game, it's been a lot of like the one and dones.
Yeah,
We don't sustain pressure very often. I think most times we do, it's the fourth line, right?
yeah.
So that's a huge thing. One more time on the power play here because I just thought about this right now.
Keep going.
It, I think I always point to like the best power plays in the league are Tampa. Boston, Edmonton, Colorado. And I think they have two things that we don't. They utilize two things that we don't. I've talked till I'm blue in the face about Morgan Riley and just doesn't have a slap shot, isn't a threat from the blue line. But they also have the guy in the high slot that can let it rip, where he'll go down on one knee and he'll just roof it. A lot of
Mhm.
teams have that. Mark Scheifele is really good at it too. Braden Point for Tampa is fantastic at it.
Yeah.
Um, Boston, Boston used to, I think, actually have Bergeron in that spot. I don't know who they would have now. Um, but Braden Point is like the guy I really point to. That's really
Is
that
it
guy.
is it Pasta right now? Or I know
No,
he plays on the flank on
yeah, I think he's
that
more of
left
a flank
flank.
guy. Yeah, so I don't know who his Boston's guy would be. So I and then so here's what I would think. You need defenseman who's a threat. You need two guys on the flank who can shoot it but are also playmakers. You need a net front guy and you need a high slot guy. So the Leafs don't have a choice. It's Morgan Riley on defense right now. Your two flanks, I honestly think they should try Austin on one flank, Willie on the other flank, JT or Bert as your net front. Put Mitch in that spot. Put Mitch in that slot at the high slot. And I think you can honestly, it sounds stupid. I think you force him to have to shoot the puck if you put him there, right?
But dude,
It's like that's where you finish plays.
yeah, dude, that sounds like gravy if that's the case. But look at who we're talking about here. And I wanted to maybe transition into Mitch. I think the discourse over Mitch is probably going to be the biggest talking point in this offseason. Unfortunately or unfortunately, that's how it's shaping up to be.
Okay. This will be our last Leaf thing. I think we've covered all our
Yes.
bases.
I think we
Okay.
have
Yeah, there you
two.
go.
I think this is going to be a big story. How like
Oh, it's
so
already huge right now. Like,
you put Mitch in that position. Does he sink or swim in that position? Does he even tread water in
yeah,
that position?
I don't know. I because he's this is me saying he's failed on the flank in the series, so you put him in the slot, right? Really his spot should absolutely be on one of the flanks, right? Like that's
Yeah.
he's
And
made for that spot and it just
if
hasn't
he's
worked, right?
failed on the flank, I don't have any faith in Mitch right now currently to even get a sniff of a good
Okay.
look in that other position. And
To,
I think this is going to drive home to a greater point. I I think we're at I think we're seriously at an impasse here with Mitch Marner in Toronto. I
so
genuinely do think so.
what is your opinion on what you do with Mitch? What is your opinion and what do you think happens?
I
Are those
don't
the
even
same answer or
dude, I don't even know what you can do with Mitch. He has a no moving clause that just kicked in. He's is this not his last year of
yep, yep,
that deal?
yep.
Dude, I'm at this point I am I've already accepted and I've already in my heart I think I've already just said let him walk, dude. I think for everybody in this situation, I know how talented Mitch Marner is. I'm seen him for I've watched him for 10 years. I will go back to another point. He was my grandfather's favorite player to watch on this current team. And it doesn't make this whole sentiment any easier to say that I don't think Mitch Marner is long for this Maple Leaf team. I don't see a way out of this. Because here's the thing. We can talk about his talent, we could talk about this, we could talk about that. But dude, it's been almost 10 years now. And how many times have we said this same thing? It's very eerily similar year after year where it's the same talking points. And you can't take other guys off the team. You've committed to Matthews, you've committed to
Willie.
Willie. I think JT is probably next that you are not going to commit to. That's probably obvious. Like I think that is the most obvious thing here. But I personally don't see a world where you bring Mitch back in and I know you are. He's going to flame. He's gonna light up. Like I've already accepted. He's going to put up 100 points on that next team that he's gonna be going to, and we're gonna be getting like everybody's gonna be getting clowned on again, saying, "Oh, how could the Leafs let a guy this talented go?" Mitch Marner is. I think we've overvalued him. I think he's a complimentary piece on a cup contending team. I don't think he's a play driver. I don't think he's the guy to go to on a cup contending team. If you throw I and we've had this discussion too, like you throw him on another system, does he turn into something like that? Probably. I don't think in this current point he can be. I think we've exhausted all our options. We've given him and by proxy everybody else that we always mention when we talk about the four. I think everybody knows who we talk about when we talk about we've given them everything. It's three guys. It's Mitch, it's Austin, it's Willie. Right? They've given them everything. They've given them the money, they've given them the team for the most part. We can clearly see that they've given them this team. And at some point, I think change just needs to happen because the definition of insanity is running like doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I'm sorry to say, dude, I know you love Mitch too. And I'm saying this coming from deep in my heart, wanting it not to be true, but I think the writing is on the wall.
I think we've had this conversation. I know we only started doing this last year. We had a very similar conversation last year, and you've probably had similar conversations with other people before that, like in past years around this time of the year. And maybe I'm just being I've been very cynical about the Leafs this year, very cynical. And maybe I'm just being cynical again and saying I don't think anything's going to change. I think Mitch is going to be re-signed. I think they're just going to commit to this core, and they're just going to see it through until they retire. I do still think that Mitch is a top flight player. I do think he's someone that you can win with. It is a question if you can win with him on this team, because I think he's basically shown to be like a franchise level player in every aspect except the 4 to 7 games he plays
Except
in
his
this time of year,
mentality.
right?
Except his mentality.
Yeah,
That is, to me, that is not a franchise player. Unfortunately, that is a very, very good player. Did Phil Kessel have that type of mentality? Like he
I
had
think he's
these.
better. I don't think I can compare Mitch Marner to Phil Kessel. I think
No,
Mitch
no, no.
Marner, and I love Phil Kessel. That's the
Yeah,
thing is, I think Phil
it's
Kessel. I always thought Phil Kessel was a complimentary player to a winning team. I don't have that opinion for Mitch Marner. I don't. I don't. I yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm just stuck in.
I
Maybe
think
I'm not
we
seeing it.
I think we've
I think
just
he's a
genuinely over
changed player.
Mitch
Yeah.
Marner.
Well, yeah. Because to me, like I've just like you watch the guy his whole career. Like you've seen him be goddamn phenomenal so
Yeah,
many
and I've
times.
also
Like
watched him his whole career and seen the same story every single playoffs,
okay.
Christian.
Question.
It is every
I know.
single it's not like he had one year where it wasn't like that. Even in the years where even in the last year where they won, he was not a factor in the
No,
winning by the end. By the time that they won
he
the
was good in
series,
Tampa. He was not good in Florida. Yeah.
no, no, even in Tampa, that what did he do in that deciding game that you're like, wow, that is the reason why we won this game. You know who scored that game? Austin Matthews and John Tavares, right?
I think he's been. I think I will say he was a changed player when he signed his contract. He's let the vitriol really get to him, and I think it's totally changed his mentality because you would have looked at Mitch Marner in that career year he had with John Tavares in his first season and said, "Oh my God, this guy's been the best player on our team." Mitch Marner was looked at as the engine of our team. Um, and I still think that guy's in there, and it's why I think we need a different voice other than Sheldon Keefe. I think we need to make it a priority that whoever we hire, his first priority is to fix Mitch Marner. I still think that guy's in there. I do. I really do think that guy is in there. Um, and I will also say, because I said this yesterday, I don't remember if I've said this here before. I really do think that this core four are fantastic players, and that if we always talk about the sniff test, right? Like the Bruins and Tampa, you put these core four players on Boston, if they play their entire career in Boston, we're not talking about them in the way we are right now. It's a
Yeah,
Leaf
they've
thing.
already
It's the
won
way they were
cups.
brought up. It's nature versus nurture. Austin Matthews would be the second coming of Patrice Bergeron. Mitch Marner would be the second coming of Brad Marchand. William Nylander would be the second coming of David Pastrnak. Like you can see that, and so to me, I really do think that those players are in there, and it's something that we need to change with how we approach them. Maybe it is too late. Maybe it's nature versus nurture, and they're too far gone to change them back. But that's my opinion on them. That's what I think, and I do think honestly we're kidding ourselves if we think Brad Treliving is going to come to the podium in the summer and say we're making a change in the core four. I don't think that's the most likely outcome. I think
That
we're
I
going to
mean
be let
that
right.
did get
I
that was a big reason why Kyle Dubas got let go. It seems right. Like he tried
Yeah,
making that push, and
yeah,
it was between him and Shanny who was saying no, and it looks like
yeah.
everybody else sided with Shanny,
I
right?
think the most we can hope for is Brad to come to the podium in the summer and call out Mitch Marner, call out his play, something like that. I think that's the most accountability we're gonna get, and then I think it's
Um,
gonna the rest of the roster moves are gonna dictate the accountability. That's a lot of Leafs. We'll take a
oof.
break, talk a little bit of the rest of the playoffs. Unfortunately, it's not all about the Leafs. Okay, we're back once again. Done with the Leaf talk. In case you guys didn't know, there's actually like other series that are played around the league.
I
I
don't
honestly
believe
just
you.
thought this was the Stanley Cup final. I thought the Leafs just, they just play for the Stanley Cup every year and they just lose every time. But no.
Man.
Yeah, let's start in the East. Other Atlantic Division series, Florida and Tampa. Florida's up 3-1. Tampa took a game off of them when they were facing they were about to be swept. They pulled one out. What do you have any takeaways from this series? What do you think going into this one? What was your prediction?
If I'm
I think
being
I had
honest,
Florida and I think I had Florida in six. I think
okay,
I gotta check.
I was I'm very surprised. I was very, 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 very surprised. I know how good Florida is. Let's not. This isn't about Florida for me personally. This is more about Tampa. I did not realize how slow they were. How like exposed they kind of got by the Florida Panthers. Like I didn't realize how big the chasm was between the two teams. And I think the chasm it's it's grown substantially. Um, is this a series that can go the distance? I don't know. I really don't. I thought for sure if you had asked me this before, I thought for sure this was going to go at least six deep. I would have in my heart of hearts I would have said seven. I thought Tampa would have at least put up a fight. They did in game four, but I still don't think they even have it. I think this is a loss in five, if I'm being honest. But it's so surprising to me to see Tampa look the
It's
way that
weird
they
to see like the Giants fall, right? Like, yeah, it's
yeah.
weird. It's weird. I checked. I did have five, Florida in six. Um, I have them going to the finals. Tampa, I was never convinced by their depth on their blue line or at forward this year. Um, like you're relying on guys on the blue line like Lilleberg.
I was just
You
about
ever
to
heard of
say
this, right? Like
Lilleberg and Nick Perbix.
Lilleberg, yeah. So yeah, I was never convinced by them. And then Florida, they really are just so they're really damn good. They are
Yeah.
really damn good, top to bottom. Bobrovsky's doing the same thing he did to us last year for the most part. Like I really do like that team. I think on a more individual level, the takeaways are that Carter Verhaeghe's got the clutch gene. Like that's just been shown to be the case now. I think he's like third all time already in overtime goals in the playoffs now, like all time, and he's only
Wow.
played I think like 50
Yeah.
something games. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I did
crazy.
see
I think
that
he's got
stat.
6 or something. Yeah, he's
I
nuts.
think he's tied for third with 5. Not
Okay.
mistaken.
And
Yeah,
I think
which is
he's
crazy.
tied with someone from like the Dynasty Canadians. I think it's Gila, and honestly, it might be Gila. Like,
You know who's number one on that list? The guy that they called Captain Clutch, Joe Sakic, is number one on that list. Like imagine even being mentioned in the same breath as Joe
yeah,
Sakic for
yeah.
like clutch moments. Some dude, I know we always talked about Justin Williams being Mr. Clutch, like game 7 clutch hero. Dude, put a little bit of respect on Carter. I think now with that type of stat, a lot of people are going to start putting more
Yeah.
respect on Carter Verhaeghe and everybody knows how good he is, but man, oh man, is he always in the right place at the right time. Seemingly, he's done it 5 times before where he
I
knows
know.
where to be.
I know Brian hates him too because he had a 4 goal game against Washington. Um, couple about honestly might be like 3 or 4 years back, but he stomped them, and I think he had an OT winner in that game too, in a 4 goal game. So yeah, Brian's been knowing the respect to put on Verhaeghe.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out Carter Verhaeghe, former Toronto Marley. God damn it. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Sam Reinhart continues to do Sam Reinhart things. Is this the Stammer send off? Could this be Stammer's last game
If
as a
we're
Tampa Bay Lightning?
if we're talking about franchise players potentially leaving this offseason,
Yeah,
man, and what okay, listen.
that's a guy
The
who's given it all for his
yeah,
team, and like he might not get it back here.
yeah, I think regardless, I think Tampa knows this. Like, if it is his last year with them, Steve Stamkos goes down as probably the greatest Tampa Bay Lightning of all
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Uh,
They'll go it like this might go
it's
down
bittersweet
on
right
slightly
now.
sour terms.
Yeah, it's definitely
Yeah,
bittersweet right
they'll
now.
look back on this in 5 years and like it'll be like Matt Sundin kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
That's how I kind of look
if
at it.
Matt Sundin won, yeah,
Yeah, Matt Sundin went back-to-back cups and yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, dude,
But
four cup finals, 2 cup wins, 50%, much more than other teams, the Leafs, can say in the same time span. Like
yeah,
that's what a run Tampa has been on. But it certainly looks like it is the beginning of the I think this season has definitely highlighted the fact that it looks like it might be the end of this sort of era unless they're able to bounce back with some great stuff next
yeah.
year. Does is this? It looks like it's the end of the road for Stammer, if I'm being
He
honest.
leads the team in points in this series. He has 5 goals.
Wow,
5 goals to
he has
lead the
five
team.
goals.
Yeah, 6 points,
Oh my
5 goals,
god,
1 assist.
dude,
He's still playing at such a high level. He
dude,
is
both the Leafs and this series are the exact same, like in terms of like games. You know what I mean? Like 3-1, 3-1.
3-1. Yeah.
Our top goal scorer on this team on the Leafs has 1.
Yeah, like I haven't, bro, I have not looked at like the Leafs playoff scoring.
You don't want to.
It does not matter to me. Like, yeah, yeah, it's 7 guys tied for 1. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
They've got Hagel with 3, Point and Nick Paul with 2. Uh, I know that Mitch had a cover from the Toronto Sun. The Invisible Man. There's an Invisible Man in this series, to be
Nikita
honest. Now,
Kucherov.
listen, yeah, he did still have 6 assists in 4 games, but he
Okay.
only has 7. He only has 7 shots.
Well, this is a guy that did score. Did he not score 60 last year?
No, I don't think he got 60. He might have had 50. Well, he probably was pretty close this year too. He had 44. He had 44 this year. That's his career high actually. Last year was only 30, but yeah,
But he
yeah.
had. Oh, but he
Listen,
also did have 135 points. Like,
yeah, yeah. Like
so.
it's gross. It's gross. Very gross. I like
Oh, sorry, it was more, right? It wasn't at 150.
of 144, 144.
Wow,
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. Hagel's been really good for them.
Mhm.
Um,
But
trying.
Hagel always seemed like that is a guy that a lot of teams covet. Like that is a guy who
We
plays in the
were in
playoffs.
on him.
We were
Um,
Nick
we
Paul.
I mean, yeah, yeah. We always talk about guys who Selly. I can tell if I want a guy based on a couple of things, and one of them is the Selly.
Yeah,
Nick Paul and Brandon Hagel both have really good
big
sellies.
sellies.
Like they're big emotion guys. They got They got the
Yeah.
face like they want to kill you.
Oh
So
yeah.
they passed that sniff test for me. Yeah. And the other thing I
Next.
think we got to talk about
Oh,
here is John Cooper. Could it be his
yeah.
send off too?
Could
I
be
don't know. There hasn't really been any talk about this at all, and I don't even know if they would fire him or if he would have to leave on his own
Chris
terms.
Wall. Yeah.
Maybe we're only bringing it up because we want wishful thinking that he could come here. So I don't know. Do you have anything
Okay.
to add to that? Because I feel like we're not having a real discussion here.
Short list for when Keefe gets fired. For me, it's Craig Berube and then John Cooper, I think. I think the only reason why
Yeah.
Craig Berube is above John Cooper is because I genuinely don't think John Cooper is gonna A, be available, and B, want to make the
Yeah.
cross. I think
So
Craig Berube is a very realistic get.
Craig Berube has been very, very heavily rumored right now for Ottawa.
No,
I
no,
think he's
please no.
local to there. I think
No,
he's
please
local to
no.
there.
Please, Craig,
There's a lot
please.
of connections to Berube in Ottawa.
Yeah, I
But
know.
listen to him. Listen,
Please
listen, listen.
no.
Here's the silver
Please
lining.
no.
Listen here. He's been so heavily rumored. Why isn't he signed?
Yeah, I guess.
He's waiting to see what happens here.
Yeah, he might. He might be.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel really bad like talking about like the Leafs in these terms when the series isn't even over. But
Oh
I
well,
don't
I
know.
mean, listen,
Yeah.
I think I've already
Listen,
gone through
if they're
my
gonna hit the golf links early, we're gonna hit
yeah, well, I'm
the
talking about
imaginary
next
dreams
season
early,
early.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Okay, so
Want to
I
skip
think
ahead?
that's
Yeah,
everything.
let's
Yeah, that's everything in that series. Rags sweep the Caps. Sorry, Brian.
yeah.
I I really don't have much from this series other than
The power
Ovechkin. Like I think
that
that
that power
right?
play on Washington, like we talk about how bad the Leafs power play was. I think the Caps were
Yeah.
genuinely might have been worse.
Well, I remember like very early in the year talking with Brian about the power play, and like
Yeah.
they were at 8%. Like that was a season theme, like throughout this year.
But then
Uh,
it wasn't. For a little bit it was
yeah,
not. For a
I
couple of months, that is kind of how they got into the playoffs. Like good goaltending play and power play goals. Like
do you?
Ovi
Yeah,
was
no,
popping off again.
I think he finished with like 26 goals. Like he turned it
I think he
around
had
himself,
30,
right?
dude.
Oh shit. Yeah, I think I think you are right. I'll check that.
That's kind of wild.
What were your expectations going into the series? Did you have a prediction for this one here?
I okay, well, I mean, granted, I did also I think I picked Rags and four, but that was probably gonna be my only sweep, I think. But I also did see
Sorry,
a
Brad.
world where, yeah, sorry, Brian. I also did see a world where
31 goals.
at least that could have been five or six. I saw a world where they could have taken one or two, and they
I
didn't.
honestly don't think I took any sweeps. I took the Rags 4-1. I took that in Rags in five.
It's
Um,
just, it's not it's not the Caps of that we grew up watching. Let's not.
I really hope it's not the last we see of Ovechkin in the playoffs. I hope he gets one more crack at it at some point. Um, and then on the Rags front,
Man, they look good.
how far can we see these guys going, right?
I
I
mean,
think
dude, if you tell me it's going to be a conference final between the Panthers and the Rags, I don't.
that's my conference finals. Yeah,
Because if
yeah.
it's probably going to be Boston, Florida, second round, and then it's looking like Rags, Carolina, next round as well. Do either of those two teams stop that conference final matchup from happening? I don't think so.
Carolina probably has the better shot. I might just sound very biased here because we're playing Boston. I don't want them to win, but I wouldn't have taken any of Toronto, Tampa, or Boston over Florida in a round two matchup. So right,
Yep.
and then yeah, Carolina. I think they definitely could. I think it could be like that should be a 6 or 7 game series between the Rags and the
Guess
Canucks.
who put the Isles to win that series?
Hey, Dave, the Isles, they
In
let you down again,
in
but
my they did let me down. I think this is going to be the last time I bet on the Isles. I keep lulling myself into a sense of this is still the Barry Trotz led New York Islanders. They are definitely not the Barry Trotz led New York Islanders anymore. They
the
are
shot of
they
Ilya Sorokin sitting down in the hallway is like crazy.
they
Like
are extremely mid, dude. And I know they got that game off of Carolina. Maybe they get
double OT.
maybe they get another one. Maybe. And that's wishful thinking, if I'm being honest. I genuinely thought that they have the pieces to be a playoff team in essence. But Patrick Waugh there now behind the bench. He's definitely not Barry Trotz, unfortunately. I like Patrick Waugh as like a person. I'm still not really convinced on him as a coach, if I'm being honest. Um, yeah, I think it was always wishful thinking to I always seemingly kind of underrate the Hurricanes as well. And I think it's because they've burnt me a few times in the past too. So this was honestly, it was a pick between who's burnt me less, and I guess the Isles
And
kind
you
of burnt
got
me
burnt.
less, and I got burnt again. So yeah, yeah,
Jeez. I looked at my notes for this series, and I literally just have going to script. That's all I wrote right now.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it definitely is going to the script for sure.
I've got Canes in five. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Fair.
into the West, Vegas and Dallas, two on Vegas.
Dude, this should be a
I feel
conference
like,
final matchup. Like, how is this a first
bro,
round match, dude?
my note is literally, is this the Western Conference Final just in round one? That's my notes.
Dude,
Yeah,
um, you've said it all year. The Dallas Stars have been your cup pick, dude. If they were in genuinely any other position, they probably would have. They
yeah,
almost had a free ticket to the conference. If the Dallas Stars had played the
Winnipeg.
Edmonton Oilers, Winnipeg Jets, the Los Angeles Kings, 100%.
Canucks.
Dude, I'll be honest. I think even the Colorado Avalanche, for as good as Colorado has been, their their back end has not been as crisp as once thought of. Georgiev has played better since the first game. I know we're going to talk about them later, but I think I'm still taking the Dallas Stars over the Colorado Avalanche. Crazy, I know.
Who are you taking in this series though? Like, right? It's
That's
two
what
on
I mean, dude.
Vegas. Yeah.
And it's a Vegas who yet again have seemingly pulled off the biggest trick the world's ever seen by activating, by gaming the system. Let's be honest with ourselves here. They look like they're gaming the system again, and it's legal to do. There's no I know a lot of people want to get upset about it, but you can cry all you want, cry to their goddamn Stanley Cup ring, and which could be a second Stanley Cup ring this year. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. My opinion on this year has been you cannot fake a lacerated spleen.
yeah,
You can muddy the timeline to get
for
back,
sure,
which I'm
for
sure
sure.
they did. The doctors told them, sit out an extra week. You could use the rest, right? That'll
Mhm.
fly, right? It's a lacerated spleen. It's serious shit. The ones that we should have had more problems with are the past injuries that Mark Stone's dealt with. Stuff like mysterious back injuries, which once again are totally legit injuries, but they're vague enough that the doctors can stretch out timelines. That's where it is, right? So I honestly, if they win the cup this year, okay, you know what? No, this does sound stupid in hindsight because I was going to say I'd have less of a problem with this cup than the last one, but they took full advantage of their
Of their
advantage this
disadvantage,
year,
yeah.
right? Yeah, by getting Hurdle Hannafin. They didn't really make many moves at last year's deadline. They got Barbashev, that's who it was. But
Hey,
this year was a different story,
who
right?
turned out to be like their player of the
We've been on
playoffs,
the
right?
Barbashev train.
And
Yeah, yeah.
who so
And
far
Jack
who have
Eichel the year before. Yeah.
yeah, and who have two guys that have been
Mark Stone.
revelations for this. No, I was gonna say Thomas
Oh,
Hurdle and Noah
oh.
Hanifin have been
Yeah, there's a lot of
fantastic additions to this team.
yes.
Like they not only do they make advantages from their disadvantages, but they also then like in this case, they hit. Have they missed on a deadline acquisition in the past 3 to 4 years?
Yeah, I was gonna say the only one
Evgeny
I could think of
Dadonov?
was the first year. Yeah, even yeah, maybe. Even then I think fine. The only one I can think of missing their entire history is the Tatar one. Right? That was
Yeah.
year one when they traded a first,
And
second, and a third, and
and
then
then they
healthy
made a
scratched them in the
cup
playoffs.
final. Like,
Yeah, exactly. What a bum trade. You made the
yeah.
cup final. Boo. Yeah.
Like, what are you gonna
Uh
do? Like, you can't. Uh,
I've got Dallas in 7 in this series was my prediction.
Still could.
I will stick to it. Yep, still a 2-1 series. Um, but I also feel confident saying like whoever wins this series is my cup
Going to
pick
the
now,
cup.
right?
Yeah, they are at the
To
very
win
least.
the cup.
I think I don't know if I will go that far at this current time because there's a lot of things that need to happen on both ends. Um, but I am confident enough to say that they will whoever wins this series is going to the cup final. They are making it out of the West.
Yeah,
And this is
yeah.
no disrespect to probably our next topic, the Jets and the
Yes,
Avs, right?
that is
But
my next
man,
one here.
what a conference finals that's going to be because it's probably going to be the let's in my head
No,
right
no, because
now.
it would be the
Is this next
like the
round
second
actually?
second round would be the winner of Colorado, Winnipeg, and
All right,
Vegas,
so
Dallas.
cool. So now we just got a conference final in the first round in that first series, and now we're getting the Stanley Cup final or conference final part two, I guess
Yeah,
you could say, in round two, and then you get the
yeah.
conference final third. Like,
Legit conference final. Oh, and then yeah. So that's the one thing for like Florida that they have going for them. They've got a very nice path to the cup,
I mean,
right?
dude, second round you do have to play the Bruins. Like,
I honestly think I don't. I like I said,
oh, I
I
know,
sound very biased
they
here,
will,
saying that I
yeah,
think that they're clearly the better team. Personally, I could eat my words, but anyways, Winnipeg, Colorado, goaltending's been a huge story here. Georgiev crap the bet in game one, and now honestly, I think some of the focus has shifted to Hellebuck. Um, I think Colorado just has the star power that Winnipeg
does
doesn't,
not.
or right. I give Winnipeg a depth advantage.
Yeah,
Um, but if they're going to win this series, it's going to be on the backs of Hellebuck, and he hasn't shown himself to be a game stealer yet,
yep. I think that's fair.
right? Yeah,
I I was definitely not on the Winnipeg train.
yeah, me
I
neither.
haven't been on for a long time. But I don't think ever, if I'm being
See,
completely
this is the
honest.
thing though, is this is probably their best team that they've had as it's this
Yeah,
or the 2018 team, right? Like
it's at
those are the
least
two.
at the very least the least toxic team that they've ever had.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's they're for sure President's Trophy in terms of least toxic
Least
team. Yeah,
toxicity, yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Listen,
Um,
I feel really bad that like they've turned this team around from last year, and the fans for whatever reason we heard all year about like the attendance issues. This isn't going to help. This isn't
no,
going to help if they go down quickly here,
probably not.
right? Yeah, I
It's
have abs and 6 in this one.
I feel like I mean, listen, there are no easy matchups in the playoffs. Maybe if you played the Caps, I guess. But even still, like I think if the Leafs had played the Caps, they'd probably goes at
Yeah,
least 6 games. So because
their
it's the
division
Leafs.
is so tough. The Jets division, like I wouldn't have took them against
That
Dallas, obviously. Colorado, no. The Kings, yeah. Vancouver would be a toss up. I'd probably still go Vancouver.
I'm
So
I don't know. I think because those are two of my these guys are fraud
Kings
teams.
and
They
Nucks.
no, Nucks and Jets. Those are my
Oh,
fraud
okay, okay,
watch
okay, okay,
teams.
okay.
Um
We'll get to that other fraud watch teams in a
Nucks
minute.
by
But
me
yeah,
making me eat my words, but I still think I'm right. But
yeah,
whatever.
we'll get to it.
But
What was
it
your
on the Jets, man, like
yeah?
yeah, like who do they play that isn't that you're not taking the other team over the Jets, unfortunately, right?
I
Like they're
would take
just
them over the Kings. That's who I would take them over the Kings.
in their division though. I you don't
Yeah, I
take them
know.
over
In
everybody,
terms of like
anybody. Yeah.
yeah,
Interdivisional matchups, yeah.
yeah. Uh, do you have a prediction for this series?
I thought it was gonna go the distance. I think that they were at the very least it was gonna probably go 6. I don't have my predictions up, but I think I put either Avs in 6 or Avs in 7. It still might.
Yeah,
They're what at 3-1.
it's
I think
3
that
1 Colorado. Yeah,
yeah, I think they're going back home. The Jets, I think they'll take another one at home, but they'll probably lose in 6.
I could see that. Yeah, Vancouver, Nashville. I took Nashville in 7 in this
I did
series.
too.
It could still happen. Um, and I'm with you on the fraud stuff. And I generally like Vancouver as a team. And in most series, I would cheer for them. I did grow just a irrational attachment to the Nashville Predators this year, and honestly, like last year too. I took them as my President's Trophy pick. So, but I was buying into Nashville as a spoiler. And like you said, I think we're right to think that because the Vancouver Canucks 71 shots is the least amount of shots for a playoff team through 4 games
Hmm.
ever. So we're on to something there.
Yeah,
Caveats: Demko injured, DeSmith injured for
injured.
game 4. Another caveat: the goddamn Vancouver Canucks won this game off the backs of miracles performed by Brock Besser and Elias Lindholm.
Dude,
Um,
the
yeah,
Preds had an empty net with they were up to 3-2 with dude, it was like 2 minutes left and they had an empty net and put it just wide. Like they hit the post
Sissons, I
if I'm
think it
not
was. Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
okay. I still like I still genuinely think like a full series. It's probably gonna end up going the distance it looks like now. Um I don't think the Preds are completely out of it just yet.
I
It's
agree.
is it is it 2-2? No, is it 2-1 or 3-1 now?
3-1, 3-1
Oh,
Vancouver.
damn it. God damn it.
I
Oh,
know, I
okay.
know.
I still think
But
he's going to go the distance. But
me too.
I still
Me
think
too.
that the Preds can genuinely. I think if any team in this playoff right now is going to pull off a 3-1, like there's a few series that are at 3-1 right now. I think we went
There's
over the
six
Leafs.
in the league.
There's
Yeah,
six. I think this might be the only one where I genuinely believe that it can be turned around. Um, I don't know. Maybe I'm holding a blind hope here. There's got to be
I'm there
one.
with you, man.
There has
I'm
to be
there with
one.
you. I okay. Archer Seelovs performed miracles last night as
Yeah,
well.
he
I'm
played a
actually
good game.
I like Seelovs a lot.
He did.
I do like Seelovs. Um, bro, game 1, okay, Vancouver won that one. I would basically say fair and square. Game 2, um, Nashville won, and they blocked like 32 shots or whatever. So I know a lot of Vancouver guys were saying like that's baloney. Like you're not doing that over a full series. Um, Game 3, Vancouver won when the shot differential was like 31-12 for Nashville. It's an absurd game. Um, and then yeah, game 4, miracles were performed. Maybe just the vibes are they're in Vancouver. They're definitely in Vancouver's favor right now, obviously. But I don't know. That's a weird series. The Smith might be back for game 5, I think was the reports. So
Man,
we'll see. But that's a weird one to watch.
the only other thing I have to say is I love UC Saros, but man, oh man, is he really not. I don't even think it's his fault. It's just like,
You
12
Steve
shots and you,
Saros?
yeah, it's like you allow, like the team allows
Yeah,
13 shots and he's letting in three. Like, unfortunately, the other
it's a tough
10
pill to swallow.
saves, the other 10 saves that might have been great saves, but at the end of the day, you're not outdueling your counterpart on the other side, right? Like, it's
When
a
your
tough
counterpart
look.
is Artur Silovs or Casey
Yeah,
DeSmith,
Casey the
you got to
Smith.
win that every night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, UC Saros is such a interesting dude from the aspect that I think he's the shortest guy in the like shortest goalie in the NHL.
Yeah, I think so too.
And he's well regarded as a top 10 goalie. It's interesting. It's very interesting. Um, my boy Tommy Novak's been held pointless.
Yeah, he's been
Waiting for him, waiting for him. I've
the
watched many of the games and I
yeah,
see the flashes. It doesn't come. It hasn't
no.
come. So he's
Yeah.
he's I can't go as far to say he's snake bitten. He hasn't been too good, but I always feel like his line. I've watched a bit and bro, his line like they play like 30 seconds max and they're off the ice. Like they do not get extended shifts at all. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's I don't know what's up there. Um, yeah, they're probably a shelter line is what it is because I think it's Novak Evangelista. I couldn't even tell you the third guy is on the line.
It's not
But yeah,
Tomasino anymore.
it's not Team. No, it's not Tomasino. Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
Zucker. Zucker's on the
somebody.
third line. Anyways, I still like that team a lot. I would love to pick some pieces off that team next year. Carrier, I've liked Carrier in this series. Um, love him as a free agent. And yeah, we'll see what happens there. In last series, Edmonton, LA. Edmonton's up 3-1 after a 1-0 win last night. Stuart Skinner gets the first shutout of the playoffs. Who had that one on their bingo card? Right?
For real.
Man.
For
Yeah.
real. That's so
I
wild.
I believe. Let me check what I had. I think I had Oilers in 5 or 6. I had Oilers in 5. Did have
Wow.
Oilers in 5, so they could
I
they could pull
think you're
that off.
right. If I'm being honest, listen, hot take alert again of the century. I think another fraud team is the LA Kings. I don't know how hot of a take that is because they
Yeah, it's
were
pretty.
bad for they were very good for 15 games and then they were very bad for 65
Yeah,
of
I was
them.
just reminded who their interim head coach is when the playoffs started. Do you know?
Is it Jim Hiller? Is that their coach? Yeah. I the only reason I know
Yeah,
that is because I saw something recently that he was
same.
the coach.
Same.
Because they fired who was Buddy that they fired?
McClellan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
bro.
just
Give me
like
Todd every day over Jim Hiller, to be
Jim
honest. But
Hiller.
anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, like this is another one I think has been going to script, to be honest. Well, those are a really good team. They have the Kings numbers. The Kings are probably feeling a lot like the Leafs do, going up against the same team and just banging their heads on a wall. Same
Bashing the head
results
against the wall.
every
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yep.
So
At
I
least
don't
this
know if
time it
I've
won't
got
be
too
in
much.
7 for them. So
Yeah, get to hit the golf links even earlier this time.
yep.
I don't know. Like Zach Hyman is incredible.
Yep.
Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, or Connor McDavid and Leon
Incredible. Yeah.
Draisaitl. Right. It's
Their
it's
depth's playing pretty well as well. Like guys like Warren,
yeah.
I've liked the play of like Warren Fogle and I don't know, there's a couple other guys on the team.
Adam
Uh,
Henrique,
Henrique
Evander
has been
Kane's done
very
good
good.
stuff.
Has Nuge
Um,
really done anything so far? I think he's the only one that's
Nuge
kind
has
of
4 points in 4 games, so he's
he's
doing
just been
his
a little
part.
bit
I think.
quiet.
Yeah, I think they've got him more probably as the shutdown type of
Yeah,
guy.
that's good,
Um,
which is fine. That's
yeah,
fine for Nuge.
that
Definitely they need somebody like that is what they needed Nuge to be, I think. And he's I think done a very fine job of transitioning him into that role, basically.
the Oilers are certainly, I would say, the best shot at dethroning Vegas or Dallas, whoever comes out of that series. I do. They just have the crazy star power, and I think at home they're a different team. Like they are just nonstop firepower. Without a doubt, I think even if they didn't have Connor McDavid, they are the most entertaining team to watch. They are so entertaining. It's just, and it goes for offensively and defensively because sometimes gets away from them that way too. Um, that's every series. You got any other thoughts? Playoffs here? Prediction for
Um,
tomorrow?
uh, well, for who? For the Leafs?
For yeah, those guys in blue and white.
Man, I still want to be an optimist and say that they just they come out firing and they steal the game in Boston, but then dude, then they come home and do what? You know what I mean? Six, did we mention that? I don't even know if we like I literally don't remember. It's been 2 hours now that we've been talking. Did we mention the stat that they've lost 6 straight playoff games at home?
Yeah, so that goes back to their
Oh,
last home win was 2020,
two?
been 2021.
2021.
Um, game
Against
5 against Tampa
Montreal?
Bay. No, Tampa
No,
Bay.
then it would have
Yeah.
been 2022 because this is 2024.
Yeah. Look at
Okay.
me.
Okay, I was gonna say.
2022. Thank you
Man,
for fixing my
if it went
calendar.
back to that Montreal
Yeah.
series, I was about to bloody
Uh,
lose it, dude.
yeah, no,
Dude,
no.
honestly,
Because bro,
they're
at that point, they wouldn't even count. There was no fans. Like,
yeah.
right? Yeah, no.
Uh,
No, they won game 5, 2022. I know this because I was in the building, even though I didn't know the year. I know because I was there. So
hey, maybe you
obviously, I'm a
gotta
problem. I gotta
go
get a
back for
ticket. I gotta go
tomorrow.
down to
Yeah.
Boston. Yeah.
MLSC,
So
call us up. Give us sponsor
yeah,
us. Actually, don't send me because I don't know if I'm the jinx, if I'm a jinx or not. And if they did end up losing the series and I was in the building, I'd be like, yeah, I'm never gonna go back to another playoff game in my life. So
yeah,
yeah, prediction. Who is playing tomorrow? It's or who's playing tonight, actually? I don't even know.
yeah. Let's look at tonight. Tonight's
We'll do
sketch.
predictions for tonight and tomorrow, and then we'll probably have another episode later on this week. That'll probably
Yes.
take us to the end of round one.
Game 5, Tampa, Florida.
Uh
In Florida,
in Florida,
they wrap it up.
I think Florida wraps it up. Dallas, Vegas. I think Dallas ties it. And they're in Dallas, right? Or are they in
In
Vegas?
Vegas.
Oh, in Vegas.
I
I
think
think I
they
still
can.
think Dallas ties it, regardless.
Yeah, yeah.
And then tomorrow, I'm gonna be an optimist. I'm gonna say that the Leafs miraculously take game five. Yeah, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt us because I know somehow for some reason I know that they're gonna somehow take it to game seven. I know they're gonna give us maximum pain. Whatever. I hate them.
Give me Leafs 5-3. Uh, all five goals, even strength. They still don't figure out the
They're
power
still
play.
not 0 for 6 on the power play, but they're still they still scored
Yeah,
five even strength goals.
yeah.
Um, Islanders, Canes. They are back in Carolina. I think Carolina just wraps it up, honestly. Just
That barn is too crazy.
wrap them
Yeah,
in a spliff, dude.
yeah,
Um, Winnipeg Avs. I think I said this in our talk. I think the Jets are they're gonna win at home, which is fine. They'll probably lose in
yeah.
six. And I'm holding out hope. Nashville and Vancouver. I'm holding out hope for Nashville. Regardless, like they're going back to Vancouver to play. I think regardless, holding out hope for Nashville.
I've got those same picks. Winnipeg tomorrow, Nashville tomorrow. Maybe we're just hoping for all of our series to, yeah,
Yeah,
be
I'm just
all of our predictions to be right. That's basically
yeah,
what our
maybe
picks
that's
are
what
there.
it
But
is. Hey, maybe
I don't
don't
know.
listen to us, actually. Maybe we
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know
Hey,
what we think we know.
listen, dude. I don't know. I think we've been pretty accurate with our predictions, so we'll see. We'll see
Well,
if
no,
that holds through.
I have definitely not
Oh, yo,
been.
on the West, you've been fine. It's on the East that
No,
you've
in the
really.
West, I picked like Nashville and I picked. Oh, okay, well, that was it. Okay, but
I took
everything
Nashville
else,
too. I
yeah.
took Nashville.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, fair.
Anyways,
Uh,
next week we'll
alrighty.
give you NBA playoff picks. No, we won't. No, we
No,
won't.
we
Those
won't.
aren't going to be any better. Okay, that's everything. Shout out to Razor. Shout out to NHL Shop where you can get a Nikita Grebyankin jersey, Leafs
I was gonna
jersey.
say Tommy Novak, Preds.
You can get a Tommy Novak national jersey whenever the hell you want. I was actually at a really quick here. I was at a card show on Saturday. It's by the airport here in Toronto. It's like every 6 months or whatever. My uncle and my dad love to go to it, so I tagged along. It's fun to just like look at all these cards, or whatever. I don't really buy them or whatever, but sometimes you see something interesting. And so I had my eye on the Tommy Novak rookie card for a little bit there. Didn't end up pulling the trigger. I can't remember. It was probably cheap. It was probably like $15 or whatever. But
Yeah, dude.
yeah,
Even if
it's just
like
fun. It would have been funny to have. I'm
just yeah, meme.
yeah, maybe next time I go, I'll pick one up. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good
yeah,
call.
yeah.
Yeah, and then other than that, I'd say maybe get yourself a Mitch Marner Utah Yetis Coyotes
Oh,
something
I
jersey.
really hope it, dude. We haven't talked since that, like
Give
on
me
the pod,
Yetis.
since that
We will.
decision, since
We will.
Arizona, Utah. There'll be lots of time for that. Needless to say,
That's gonna be a
me and
nice
Dave are
off-season
team
talk
Yetis.
very
Yeah,
soon.
yeah. So yeah, get your Utah Yetis jersey, NHL shop. Razor shop, NHL shop, Fubo.
Shout
That's
out.
everything. And we'll see you guys next time we talk to you sometime soon.